call the meeting to order and ask Mr. Moore to introduce our guest to offer the invocation and the pledge.
I would like to introduce Reverend Plummer and his group of young folks there. And Reverend Plummer is the pastor of the Greater Mount Trial Baptist Church in Sopchoppy, a very nice church out there. So, Reverend Plummer, if you would come forward, please.
Come up to the podium, sir, and let's all stand, please.
Those of you that would you would bow your heads, please, for a word of prayer. Father, we come now in the name of Jesus. Thank you, dear God, for being our Lord and for being our God, and we just give you all the honor, glory, and praise right now. God, we ask right now, God, that you would bless us, dear God, as we go forth into this meeting. You said we acknowledge you in all our ways, that you would direct our paths, Father. So we ask now, God, that you would lead, that you would guide, that you would direct our thoughts, dear God, and our minds, God, that we can be pleasing in your sight. Father, we ask now a blessing upon this country and upon this state, and a special blessing upon this county in which we live and which we love, Wakulla County. We ask, dear God, that you would bless us in a mighty way. Bless, dear God, the officials, dear God, in this county government, God, that they would be in your will. And we just thank you and give you all glory for all things. And we ask, dear God, that you continue to bless us, lead us, and guide us. All these blessings we ask now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
If the young folks will come up, please, and lead us in our pledge.
Do it right there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Reverend. Okay, the first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Any noted changes? Ms. Arch?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have 3 brief announcements under awards and presentations.
Okay. And
I would like to pull 2 items off the consent agenda. Item 3 and item 7, or is it? Yes, 3 and 7.
3 and 7 pull. Okay. Any other changes? I'd like to add at the end under discussion items, I want to give you an update on the Wakulla Gardens stormwater, a meeting that we had with Congressman Sutherland's staff as it pertains to that.
I have some discussion items, but I thought we just
talk. That's fine. Any other changes or modifications?
I'll just have an additional comment under my time, Commissioner, about the RACIC.
Okay. I hear a motion to approve with those noted changes.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Brock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Merritt. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And the next item of business is there are no public hearings, awards and presentations, announcement of the library summer program. Scott Joyner.
Okay, Commissioners, thank you. I won't take too much of your time tonight. I just wanted to announce that once again we're doing our summer program of events this summer. The Friends of the Library is paying the cost for everything, the books, the field trips, the reading programs. It's all being covered by the Friends. And is Sue Belford here? She's the president of the Friends, and I thought she was going to try to make it, and I wanted to recognize her. We're having 2 sign-up periods for it. It's Thursday, the 2nd of June from 6 to 8 at the library in our main meeting room. And on Friday from 10 to 12, we're going to have an inflatable bouncy house there and refreshments for the kids and things of that sort. And this summer, for the first time, we're going to try to start a teen book club at lunchtime. We're going to provide pizza and drinks, and that's something I'd like to keep going throughout the fall sometime in the afternoon. I'd really like to try to start to get some teen activities going on up there. We're going to have reading groups from infants all the way up through 5th grade. We're going to have field trips to interesting and fun places around the area. We're going to be going to a horse farm, planetarium up at FSU. We're going to have performers down here, storytellers, magicians, singers. Everything is 100% free to the public. And we are going to have multiple copies of all the books for the summer reading programs for the middle schools and high school and elementary schools, but we don't have unlimited copies, so we do ask that everybody try to get their books from the library early, or they're risking being put on a hold list that potentially can last all summer long, because unfortunately we can't provide a book for every single student in the county. I wish we could. But just please try to get those summer reading books early, and if there's any questions or comments, feel free to contact me, and I will be passing out the brochures about the summer program later on this week after they're done at the printers, so all the students will be bringing them home.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Scott. Next is the announcement of Wakulla County Health Department upcoming local programs.
Good evening. My name is Grace Keith. I'm the health educator for Wakulla County Health Department, and I'm here tonight to give you some information about some upcoming programs that we have. The Office of Minority Health is coming from Tallahassee on June the 6th to provide a grant writing program. It is mainly aimed at churches, but everyone is welcome to come. It has lots of good information, and anyone who is interested will take away great information. It's from 9 to 1 o'clock on June the 6th at the Health Department. The next training is also offered by Office of Minority Health, and it is a health ministry training for any churches in the area that are interested in starting a health ministry, and it is called Body and Soul. It's June 13th from 9 to 1, also at the Health Department. We have the Health Department has now been able to offer CPR for the community, and we would love for anyone who is interested in getting the CPR training to contact us. Classes are limited to no more than 10, so there's lots of individual attention and interaction. It's about $20 just to cover our costs of the cards and the books. CPR has changed a great deal over the last few years. It is much easier and is much less intimidating than it used to be. So this is a great chance for anybody and everybody to get trained on that. We also have an asthma intervention program that's coming up in June. More information will be out about that later on, but any grandparents, parents, teachers, child care workers that need information about asthma or have children who have asthma are encouraged to come to this. So you can see we do have a lot of programs. I can go anywhere that people need me to go and teach just about anything they need me to teach. So if anyone is interested, you can call me at 926-0400 extension 215, or you can just go to the Health Department website and get information there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ars?
Thank you. The Recycling Task Force is going to meet this Thursday at 4 p.m. at the library, so be there or be square. Sports physicals, this coming Saturday. All student athletes at the high school, either of the middle schools, and that includes people, cheerleaders, people who are Special Olympians. We also have Boy Scouts who need physicals, and other summer campers who are in that age range are eligible. These are conducted free of charge at the clinic at the high school. At 9 o'clock, we're asking for Wakulla High School students to show up. 10 o'clock is River Springs Middle School, and 11 o'clock are the high school students. Every student needs to have one of these forms filled out and signed by a parent. They can get these at the school clinics. They can also be downloaded from the website if you want. And this year, something new that we're doing is the health department is going to be offering immunizations that are required for school attendance to everyone who's participating in those sports physicals. So again, this is middle and high school students. To get an immunization, though, you're going to need a record of your previous shots, and you need to have a parent, a guardian, or some responsible relative with you. But that's another great opportunity to, get things taken care of so there are no problems when it's time to start school or start training for your sports. And this is something that is offered by the Wakulla Healthcare Task Force, and we get wonderful participation from our clinicians in the county. So please help spread the word. Let's get lots of student athletes out there on Saturday.
Lynn, would you mind announcing the times one more time? I think you may have messed up one of the times.
Oh,
but
did I?
Do it again one more time.
Okay. At 9 o'clock, it's Wakulla Middle School. 10 o'clock is River Springs Middle School. And 11 o'clock is Wakulla High School.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Also, ROTC students are welcome at any club, any organization in the schools that require a sports physical are welcome to come to that. Okay.
Thank you. And this is my last announcement. Who recognizes this?
That's an invasive
plant?
species, mimosa.
Cleve does.
I've cut down hundreds of them on the side of the road with boom.
Right. This is commonly known as mimosa or fringe tree. It is a very aggressive, invasive species. It's not from here originally. It was brought here from Asia, I think Philippines. Now you can hold it. And it is listed.
Let Lynn hold one of these in each hand.
It is listed as a Class 1 invasive or Category 1 invasive species, which puts it in the category with kudzu and hydrilla. So these things are taking over the county. They are so prolific, and they get on into Wakulla Springs State Park. They have to deal with hundreds and thousands of these seedlings popping up on public lands. So if you have one of these on your property, please remove it. It's the right thing to do for all of our native species and all of our native animals too. The way you get rid of them isn't always so easy though. If you prune it, if you cut it off at the bottom, the best thing to do is put a little bit of Roundup or some kind of brush be gone right where you've cut on the stump. And sometimes it'll still come back even after you do that. So please, if you have one of these on your property, now's a good time because they're easy to spot and they haven't yet produced seeds. If you have one on your property and you physically aren't able to take it down, or you don't have the tools, call me or send me an email. I'll come take it down, or if I need a chainsaw, I'll get somebody else to help me. And if you are somebody, and there are people like this, who think this is really an ornamental tree that you love, and there's no way you would want to cut it down because it's part of your landscaping, call me or send me an email. Because if you'll agree to take it down, I'll give you a replacement red bud or something like that. A baby that'll have to grow, but I'll give you another replacement tree just to help our county get rid of these. So please, everybody do your part. Let's kill them. Thank you.
Miss Art said kill trees. Lynn, there's also another method, I think, with the Forestry Service. You can actually drill at an angle down, because I had to deal with this, drill at an angle down into the trunk, and then you inject whatever chemical into that hole. That way you don't have to cut the tree down. It will die, of course, but
Well, that might be an
I think the
easier way
Forest
to do
Service has lots of information on that.
it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Next item is the consent agenda. We wanted to remove 3 and 7, so we need to approve the remaining items.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we'll hear item 3. Lynn, you wanted that pulled?
Yes, I did. And this was a pretty interesting workshop. It maybe seemed a little more confusing or chaotic to me than some of our others. I didn't leave feeling as if I had a real good had real good information on which to base some decisions. I'm still uncertain about some of the legal issues, some of the costs that we're at risk of encouraging, and really the problem with the loans. So one thing I wanted to do is, before we approve these minutes, is to have our county attorney, who wasn't there, to provide some information, and then maybe to have a little bit more discussion.
Do you want to table it to the next meeting? The approval of the minutes of the county attorney? Have you already reviewed these minutes?
I don't think it's a rush, Ms. Arts, if you want to wait and let Heather give her a chance since she wasn't here, unless you're ready.
I mean, you know what the issues are that she wants to talk about?
I mean, I generally do. I probably take a stab at it, and if there are others, we can table it then.
Okay.
I understand I was at a CLE and apologize that I couldn't be there. I understand there was a question with regard to whether the county is required to accept subdivision roads. Under Florida statutes, I can read it to you, they specifically state that nothing herein shall be construed as creating an obligation upon any governing body to perform any act of construction or maintenance within such dedicated areas, except when the obligation is voluntarily assumed by the governing body. And in our code, if you go on, our code specifically sets up a petition process where they have to come and petition the board to accept these things. So from a policy or from a legal standpoint, you can leave your code as it is and the process that you have in place. You can change it. You're not required to, I just wanted to make clear that you're not required to accept these roads, but you certainly can accept them. That is going to be a decision for this board. I don't know if there were other issues or...
You provided some information to me about what other counties are doing.
I did a admittedly informal survey of some other counties before this workshop even. I haven't redone it since then. A lot of county attorneys that I know indicated to me that because of the potential costs, they don't accept new subdivision roads at all. They leave it up to the HOAs to maintain these roads indefinitely, even if they're dedicated on the plat. Others will accept them, but they automatically create an MSBU on the lots within there to cover the costs of maintaining those roads going forward. And then they also build up a balance so that when they have to resurface that road in 7 to 10 years, they have the money to do so without using revenues from their other taxpayers. So these are all options for you all to think about. I don't think you have to do anything today or next week or next month, but wanted to clarify that for Commissioner Art.
Thank you. Again, I don't feel like I have a real good handle on what the costs are likely to be that the county's going to end up incurring if there's this avalanche of roads that it sounded like we would all of a sudden be accepting. And I also don't fully understand the issue about the lending and how many people are really affected and what are the options. So even though at the workshop we were all kind of saying, okay, well, let's leave it as it is, I guess I'm not feeling so comfortable with that. And so I'll move to approve these minutes, but I would also like to have some further discussion or an item come back to the board with some alternatives and more information.
Okay, we'll have a motion. Do I hear a second to approve the item?
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Moore.
Basically, I had asked that Mr. Mowry get with the attorney who was here and work out a solution that we could all agree to. Has anybody been in touch with you?
I've not heard from Ron's office, no.
Ms. Sarge, my position on this is that these subdivisions in the past come in with good faith that there would be county maintained roads. If we want to move forward in the future and say that new subdivisions have to all be privately maintained roads, well, that's certainly something we can talk about. I don't think it's fair, though, to go back and say, well, we said, when you went through your plat approval and final plat and everything, it was all assumed you're going to be county roads, but now we changed our mind. That's my issue. So, and going forward, if we want to make a 50% build-out criteria, 60% build-out criteria, that's fine. but there were subdivisions that were built in the past that were not aware that we were going to change our minds. And, you know, remember that these subdivisions generate a lot of tax dollars. So, and it's been this way, the way it is today, it's been that way for the last, I don't know, however 100 years. Now, that's not saying it's absolutely correct, but that's my issue. So I just assume believe the way it is.
Well, and I think my motion, unless I need to make a second motion, was to, I guess, direct staff to come back with a number of options in addition to just leaving it as is, which is kind of what we were leaning toward at the workshop.
I just want to make sure, like I said the other day, that, and I'm fine for leaving it like it is, I just want to make sure that in the end, as we get these subdivisions, we're able to somehow control if somebody goes in and damages them, that somebody's got to fix it. I mean, who's to say who's going to make the call if you're building two houses side by side, who damaged the road? Well, if it's obvious if it's right in the driveway, which is most of where the damage is going to occur. But furthermore, like Lynn has suggested, is long range is what is it going to cost to resurface that road? I agree we get a lot of tax money out of it, but there's got to be some way, some long range cost. And I agree with you. I don't want to go back and those folks need to be grandfathered with this with what's in place now. But I think we need a new system to go forward with.
The only subdivision I know that we have actually repaved the roads in is Ameliawood, and Cleve, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That was a subdivision from the 80s or the 70s, paved roads, county accepted maintenance on them. About 8 or 10 years ago, I think, we went in and repaved the roads. Now that's after paying 20 years of taxes and gas taxes, and you know, we historically haven't had a lot of growth until 05 or 04. So we kind of got a glut coming through the system.
But I don't know that we haven't had a situation where we're accepting roads when there's still going to be a lot of construction occurring in those subdivisions and potentially a lot of damage. And, you know, I don't think we really even appreciate what we may have to pay. So is it, did we vote on the first one to accept the minutes, or?
That's what your motion is, to accept the minutes and ask them to come with some...
Okay, so it was both. Direct staff to come back with an item looking at options. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Basically, I agree with Randy. What yesterday is yesterday. Going forward, an MSBU on the new subdivisions would be a great... When you put it into the homeowners association, unless they're really, really strong, they're neither here nor there. But if you put an MSBU on it, then you've got an organization, you've got a method by which you can set aside money for the. So.
That's the way the law reads.
Well, then we need to change it, because that's I'm not going to be nonchalant as you about saying that we're going to take them if there's only two. I mean, there's the number of subdivisions out here that have one or two houses in them, and just to take the roads, Randy, is not fair to the rest of the taxpayers. When they come in and build it out, it may be 1% built out. I mean, there's some here. There's some right down there, down the road that...
I thought that's what we discussed at the workshop. The reason, you know, I don't want to go through the whole workshop all over again, but the whole reason to me was that the lenders won't let people get construction loans on the lot unless there's a maintenance entity. And in some cases, it's not possible to have a homeowner association. Okay. And as Cleve said, I mean, this is not a crisis. It's not a big problem that needs to be resolved. I think going forward, if we want to change the way we do things, that's fine. And I assume that's what your motion was to look at different options.
I like the MSBU thing. Laid out.
Okay. We've got to do something, because we got lenders and buyers who are in a holding pattern until we do something.
But we need some kind of an agreement, though, with these big subdivisions where there's maybe 100 houses still to be built, or whatever number it is. And
Stuart, maybe we could go back and put an MSBU on somebody like Hidden Meadows, for example. Can we do that?
Yeah.
All right, so we could go, even though we've accepted the road for maintenance, y'all are going to pay $10 a year because nobody lives, you know. I'm sure we can come up with some criteria, but that gets over, we've accepted them, but not necessarily that we're going to, and that sets a dangerous precedence for all the ones we have accepted and maintained. But
I'm not for...
It's a complicated issue.
Yes, it is. Exactly. because of where we found ourselves in the economy. These people rolled up the carpet and went home, and
Exactly.
now the banks hold them, and they're trying. And I want to help those folks, and we need to help them. But at the same time, we can't bankrupt the county doing it. So, it's a,
Well, somebody's going to have to take care of the roads, so maybe, as Randy said, we can set up an MSBU on these subdivisions that are less than 25% built out.
Until they're 50 or 60 or whatever criteria we set.
Well, at some point in time, the homeowners are going to have to pay, one way or the other, they're going to have to pay for the roads. And the only way for sure to get them to pay for the roads would be with an MSBU.
I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Does that give you enough guidance? Okay.
Well, I was just going to say, that I think the direction we're heading in seems to be, I think we're going in a good direction. We're talking about this. I don't know that we have to do a preemptive MSBU on people. We might look to set up a policy in the future so that some of our neighborhoods might have we can figure out a way to put an MSBU in the future if they have neighborhood improvements, like if they feel the road needs to be improved. And we can talk about it at that time. But I don't...
Well, before we scare anybody, let's be sure we're not talking about something like a Wakulla Gardens or something like that. We're talking about new subdivisions that failed during the boom, or not failed, but didn't build out, that have paved roads, county standard built. That's what we're talking about. Not anything else.
And we're just looking at all the options.
We're going to start charging somebody to maintain the road.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Well, we're going to have to do something though pretty quick, because we got people out here who are in a holding pattern and they can't do anything.
We're going to continue down the path we're on right now.
Everything's fine.
Everything's
Okay,
Yeah.
good enough.
The problem becomes when trying to figure out when the road needs fixing. And right now the roads don't need fixing. We just need to maintain them so that people can build houses on them.
Thinking ahead.
Yeah, we're trying to.
Okay. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then item 7, Ms. Arts.
Okay, this is the solid waste, it's the RFP for solid waste management and disposal. We made a decision at the last board meeting to explore having the curbside pickup, and I know staff worked real hard to get this quickly pulled together, and I had just a few comments and questions, and I thought it would be good to pull it off the consent in case other people did too.
Several more.
You had some too? Okay.
Can we
Well-
get a motion on the floor and then we'll talk it out?
Okay, the motion then is to approve to advertise a draft RFP with revisions to be specified, and direct staff to proceed with the bid process seeking a franchise solid waste hauler.
Second.
Motion and a second. And Randy, you want to?
I have
Ms.
some
Arts had
questions.
comments.
Archie, you got some comments?
Well, and I think the county attorney had comments also.
A few things to say too. I was
Oh.
going to pull it if you didn't pull it.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
One thing I want to make is this is an RFP. It's in substantial form. There are still things that purchasing is going to add, because I did the bulk of the drafting due to the nature of this particular procurement. So there are still things that we're going to refine, such as the schedule and the criteria and things like that. So the one that goes out, if you decide to go forward tonight, may not look exactly like this, but it'll be substantially the same. Number 2, I did have one question. I did not put a local preference in there. If you all want a local preference, we certainly can put that in. 3, I wanted to note that I did include buyout provisions in order to comply with 403.70605 of Florida statutes for displaced haulers. And then 4, if you decide to go forward tonight, the next step is we'd put the RFP out, and then we would notice and have a public hearing in July to discuss the advisability of the county providing solid waste collection services. Each hauler would get individually noticed, so they would be made aware of it by first-class mail. And then we'd send those notices out in early June to provide ample notice for them. Now, even if you decide not to go forward with the RFP at this time, I still recommend that you do the July public hearing. The reason is that July public hearing triggers a statutory process where you can either provide 3 years of notice to all haulers that you may be, the county may be taking over this service, or it kicks off the process in lieu of the 3 years notice. You can require, as this RFP does, that they're all bought out by the new hauler would pay them 15 months of gross receipts. So those are your either-ors, and that public hearing would kick off both of those processes. The reason I recommend that you do that public hearing in July, even if you're not going to pursue a franchised hauler at this point, is that it leaves the county that option in the future. So if in 3 years this is a good idea again, the board would be able to do this, and it may be a cheaper process. And it also is fair to the local haulers. It provides them with notice that this may be coming in a few years' time. Those were my comments, and if you do one of the issues, any revisions you all have or suggestions you want to make, we're more than open to them. And I would like a little bit of discussion on the local preference so we know how to proceed.
Jerry?
Basically, if we do the 3 year more or less notice, and that puts the haulers on notice that we may go with a single hauler.
Yes.
The 3 year notice, then once they're given a 3 year notice, we don't have to pay them for their
That is correct.
equipment.
You got it.
If we give them the 3 year notice, can we also then, in our final negotiation with the single hauler, can we say you need to pay these folks some portion?
You certainly could do that by contract.
Okay. I just don't want to leave the haulers out in the wind with the 3 year notice. I know they probably don't, but the 3 year notice leaves you without we could bring in the single hauler and you're just out. We don't pay you anything. That's one side of it. The other side of it is that under that we would pay you 15 months of gross receipts. That's a little much in my opinion. So basically with this notice we can still come back and negotiate with the single hauler if that occurs. I'm not for that. Okay, so but if that were to occur, then we could require the single hauler to negotiate with you as to your expenses or whatever. I just don't want to get the county in a position of having to pay 15 months of expenses.
Okay. Randy, you had some?
Yes. I called, or actually Parrish Barkey called me, and I got his RFP from Georgia that they just did. And they did a similar situation from us, rural county, and very simple 5 to 6 page RFP. And I read it, and I read ours, and I'd like to make a couple comments. Number one, this RFP requires that the transfer station be kept open and in fact improved. I thought that, I wouldn't say it defeats the purpose, but I would prefer to see, I don't support this unless there's a big compelling reason. I already told you 100 times, but if we're going to bid it, I at least want to have it bid the best way for the county. I'd like to see us take that transfer station requirement out. If they pick up trash, they dispose of it however they want to.
We really, the reason, we've asked them for an operational plan for disposal. We're not requiring them to upgrade the transfer station to handle the county's entire waste stream. There are 2 things at play here. One is C&D. We do need to provide some place for that, and
Do we have to provide?
I'm uncomfortable relying on a private company staying in business up in Leon County for that. And 2 is the city of Shopee. We need to make sure that their residents have some place to dispose of their waste in the event the city does not participate in the collection. And I don't know at this point that they're going to. This is happening kind of fast, so we're trying to keep all the balls in the air. So, I mean, if a hauler comes in and they decide that under their operational plan they're going to haul everything up to Georgia, the improvements at the transfer station would be very, very small that they would have to make. They may have to just put a dumpster out there or put a concrete pad down or something.
Well, if they're going to be collecting household waste, and Cleve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we've been fined, I don't know how many times out there for leachate, because there's no roof over the transfer station. Are they going to be required to bring it into compliance with regulations as far as leachate collection, which is the water that runs under the trash and runs on the ground? Right now it's pumped out of a septic tank into a tanker truck. I assume they're going to take over all operations of that transfer station? Well,
I mean, it may be open one day a week. It may be have very, very minimal improvements if they're going to haul everything out.
who sets the tipping fee? Heather, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I just want to ask these questions. Who's going to set the tipping fee for the C&D? It says they have to provide a place to dispose of it. Do we need to still have a scale house? How does that work?
If a vendor comes in here and gets a contract, it'll be up to him to comply with the Florida regs here. As far as using our existing transfer station and the leachate problem, at that point in time, I'm assuming that we're going to have a release of all liability, or the county will have a release of all liability on that.
Just like Argus had, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be strictly theirs. As far as the scale goes, if we stay in the solid waste business, we'll need the scales, but past that point, if they need to bring in portable scales to weigh, it'll be up to those guys. That's part of the operational plan. It has to be, when they come and set up and start the program, they have to be in compliance with the solid waste 601.
And I assume if we're collecting C&D, couches, concrete, sheetrock, and they're providing a place to dump it at, is that what it says, or they have to accept it free, or just provide a place to dump it? It says it's not included in collection of, it says collection of seafood materials is excluded from this proposal, and it must be accepted at the transfer station. So I assume that means we got to charge a tipping fee because we got to pay for disposal of it.
The vendor that will,
I don't mean put you on the spot at all.
The vendor will have to assess that fee, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot less than what we are, because what I would envision is that vendor would have dumpsters out there. Those dumpsters would only be there long enough, 2 days, 1 day. They might just accept C&D on, from Thursday to Saturday. That's part of their operational plan that they'd have to give us.
That answered my question. Is that it said the transfer station must be able to accept C&D, which we know that compact that's out right now is not suited to dump concrete and sheetrock in, so they'd have to come up with a different plan. I think the recycling portion of this, and Cleveland, I don't know if it has anything to do with you, should be an additive alternate. Do you really want to include it as a mandatory? I mean, that's really kind of your call. You've been driving this horse.
Well, I think the recycling is a big part of what the community, I think a lot of people want us to see recycling.
That's fine. That's fine. We also had yard trash collection, which is kind of unprecedented to pick up yard trash, especially in a rural county. Do we really want to include that in there?
Yeah, that was one of my questions.
I think that's an enormous cost.
I think if it's done on an optional fee basis or whatever, that's one thing. But I mean, ideally, best practices are, if you have grass, you should leave the grass on your lawn. And leaves really should be raked up under trees and not put in plastic bags and carried off.
I just think that's a Cadillac luxury that we probably need to take out.
I agree.
Alan?
I don't think we need yard waste collection.
At all,
I
or
agree.
just optional?
I'd say at all.
You can leave it in as something, as a note, if you'd like to provide yard waste, there'll be an additional fee for collection.
If you live in a little subdivision, just put it in a garbage bag and put it in the trash can. But not curbside pickup of limbs, stuff like that. I just think they have to include it in their bid. This bid, by the way, is already going to be way high, so it's a moot point when we get the bid back. But
I'm with you. It shouldn't be a mandatory thing, and every 2 weeks or whatever.
As long as we don't cite people for burning their leaves and limbs.
It's no different than it is right now. We don't accept yard waste there anyway, I don't think. You're not supposed to.
Actually, your state regs are discouraging the your yard debris from being in the waste stream.
Right.
They want you to compost or handle it at the location it's generated.
The other thing they could do is
what I do.
beside encouraging people to keep it on their property and let it just decompose, is they might want to do the option of collecting it to mulch and then let people buy mulch or something. I mean, that's another thing that they could do.
I'd say we take it out of the bid, though, so it doesn't...
Do you want it as an optional on-demand service?
I don't think it's important.
I don't think it's...
Take it out.
Well, this is still Wakulla County. I think we can handle it.
Guys, do note that I know there's 3 private class C and D disposal sites in this county, and that may open up opportunity for one of those vendors to stay open on Saturdays. But Mr. Paget has one. The Harrell brothers have one, and been with them, but they are licensed C&D pits.
We used to operate a green waste landfill ourselves out there at the wastewater plant. You probably remember. We dumped them many a tree. All right, next question is, it says pick up the recyclables. What do they do with them once they pick them up? It just says pick them up.
Well, they've got a dual stream. They have to
weekly
keep it
weekly
separate.
manual collection, dual stream, fiber stream, and commingled container stream. But what do they do with them once they pick them up?
Well, it says they have to keep them separate.
Recycle
I
them?
assume to
So they have to have their own recycling facility also?
No, they could just take them to any recycling company.
Okay, so that was, I didn't know if you were telling me they got to bring them to landfill and we recycle them, which is fine, but it just didn't say. So they do whatever they want to with them, just get them out of here.
There's profit to be made. Big profit.
Just so you know, going forward, I'm not going to vote for this. My position is that I don't want to put myself under the gun of a single hauler.
Well, I said I'd look at it, so I just want to make sure what we look at least is accurate, because it may come back to be $600 a year, and then we'd all sit here and agree that's too much. And I think it's going to be very high, given everything that's in here also. Commercial, Heather, talk to me a second about how commercial was addressed in here. Is it addressed or not addressed?
It's addressed in here. We're getting bids for that. It is not going to be, it's not anticipated to be included in the assessment on the tax roll if you go forward. It would rather be, we got bids per cubic yard container per pickup, and it would be, the hauler would be responsible to bill the commercial establishments directly. And
Okay, so Hardee's, for example. All right, let's say Quantum wins the bid, okay? That Hardee's then would have to contract with Quantum to pick up their trash?
Unless we can get, we toyed around with getting separate prices with commercial in and with commercial out, and we can make that, do that and make a decision later.
I would, in my opinion, I think we should leave the commercial out of this altogether. If we do go down this route, if Hardee's wants to use whoever they want to use, that's fine. At least there'll be some solid waste business left if this does go through.
And here's a question, and I've been trying to figure this out because I've had people raising a similar concern with me. And the question becomes, and Cleve, you may have insight on this, if we leave commercial out of it, can we require commercial take their trash, whoever collects it takes it outside of Wakulla, so that because the goal of this is to get out of Wakulla County maintaining a transfer station.
Most of your commercial businesses already have separate contracts with private haulers to dispose of their waste, and the majority it is leaving the county directly.
Can we make that an official requirement, or do we have to? The concern being raised is we have to provide for them a way to throw away in the county. I guess we could still leave open, and we have to maybe leave something open for Sop Choppy. We could maybe leave something open for commercial and let them.
I mean, I would like to at least get the bids for it. You may get good prices, I don't know. We can get separate, and you can pick and choose, award all or none or part. I still need to look with the new growth management that passed. I need to review and see, because you do have, the county is statutorily responsible to provide the disposal option. So I need to see how that's an issue I'd have to look into more.
Okay, I'd like to really look into that. Even the one that they did in that county, they just left it out, whoever.
Is that's in Georgia?
Right, I understand. The statutes may be totally different.
In the event that you chose a single hauler, What are you going to have in there for his escalation whenever he wants to raise his fees?
There's a provision, we outlined acceptable escalations in the RFP that's attached here. Let me find it for you.
And what about if he doesn't like that? He has the option to just quit.
Well, he'd be contractually obligated to it, so
So there'd be a performance bond.
There'd be
something like this.
bonding, and he'd forfeit if he quit.
Heather, how is the bid going to be awarded? I see the bid form. I guess I assume that's what this is, but 99.8% of it is the garbage pickup and the recycling pickup. How do we? Shouldn't it be cost per year times this many households? You know what I'm saying? Because somebody could lowball on one of these, whatever, cart replacement, and when you add them all up, they got the lowest bid. I'd like to make sure we skew it towards certainly the bulk of the revenue that they would receive is going to be from residential pickup.
Well, it's actually styled as an RFP, so it's not a lowest price bid. We're looking at their operational plan, we're looking at their experience, their financial plan, and then cost, but that's just one portion of it.
So this isn't just a strict
No,
bid.
it's not.
And I'm okay, Paul, after the conversation I've had, if we need to take commercial out to help it move forward, I'm okay.
I mean, I
Let
would
us know whatever you-
suggest getting
Both quotes.
Well,
both quotes.
given what she said, now this is the tricky part. If we have to, by statute, handle our own solid waste,
Well, you have to provide a disposal option, and I need to...
but one of those options can't be we don't want it, do it, take it somewhere else. That can't be the option.
I gotta look.
All right, so if Walmart decides they want to start dumping trash at our transfer station, this successful bidder needs to put in their price to update our transfer station to handle Walmart. Is that correct?
The New Growth Management Act passed about a week and a half ago, and I need to review that to see how it plays into this discussion.
Well, that's absolutely critical to this, because if they have to start accepting several thousand tons a year of solid waste, they're going to be right in the position we're at right now. I mean, I know it's not going to be nowhere near as many as it is now, but they're going to be in the same position with the leachate, blah, 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 and this company has to bid to cover all contingencies, somebody might come in and underbid waste management and start collecting Walmart's trash and said, we're going to bring it to the county. And we don't have a tipping fee set for commercial yet. We have no idea what that's going to be, I guess, until we get the bid back, or C&D. It's a complicated issue.
It's a very complicated issue.
Any more, Cleve? Got a couple citizens that want to be heard. Charles Prout.
Honorable Commissioners, thank you. This is a complicated issue, and it's a no-win issue. Everywhere where there's been a sole source, Miami, Tampa, Atlanta, they come in, they low bid it. Once they get the contract, a year or two later, it's sky high. Little fees here and there and so forth. The citizens wind up paying a bigger, higher price. We're trying to get jobs in this county. I can't see where we're putting a position here to get rid of, or even have the option of getting rid of, independent commercial business haulers. They have their own businesses, they have their own expenses, they have their own commitments. If they are liquidated, they're not going to get the money out of the equipment. We're in effect saying, hey, you're out of business. Why not put a soda company out of business? Why not put a given gas station out of business? I don't believe that there's a need to mess with the independent private enterprise hauling. The landfill is a totally separate issue. Closing it, keeping it, is a total separate issue. What I do believe is that you could require the haulers to have a disposal option. Let them, but I don't see where it comes or benefits the county to get down to one bidder. I don't see that it has any benefits. Competition keeps prices down. Thank you very much.
Marcus Bouton.
My name is Marcus Bouton. I own a MBE garbage service. I'm a commercial garbage hauler here. Besides Waste Pro, to the best of my knowledge, I'm the only one doing commercial dumpsters in Wakulla County at this time. I've been in business for 3 years. I've grown it myself, and it's profitable. I have 3 employees that live down here. I buy all my fuel here, all my repairs are here, and they live and work here. My mother owns Quantum Garbage Services. She has been in business for 14 years. She has 5 employees, and same thing, she does all of her business here in Wakulla County. These are profitable businesses that we built, and so the worst economy in 50 years, and people are going to lose their jobs if you move forward with this one hauler. I have someone I would like to introduce you to. Mike, come here. This is Mike Beatty. He's been working with Quantum for 13 years. Mike is 58 years old, and something very tragic happened to him a few years ago. While he was at work on his garbage route, his house burned down. And Mike took 2 days off from work when this happened. Now, in the 13 years he's worked there, he has never taken an unscheduled day off. He's been at work every day. He's never called in sick. He's dependable. He wants to work. He needs a job. And he has a family. So I just want you to please consider the livelihoods of these people when you make these decisions. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you, sir. Any more discussion up here?
Yeah, I had a few other really minor things and some just questions. I noticed that St. Mark's is apparently opting out. They have...
But my understanding is St. Mark's already has a franchise hauler.
Okay, and then Sop Choppy hasn't decided yet, but if they decide not to do this and are using local haulers to bring their residential garbage to the transfer station, then they would be assessed a tipping fee by whoever would have this. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I think the issue is we haven't talked to Sop Choppy yet. It's not that they've opted out or not, or opted in. It's just in 2 weeks we haven't approached them to see. They have the option to opt out.
I'm sure they want to know what it costs.
Sure, okay. Also, when you read through this, and this is real minor, but it sounds like both the C&D and the waste is coming from Sop Choppy, as opposed to countywide C&D. Anyway.
That's one more thing that, and I talked to Cleve about this. When we get this number back, this number is going to be to pick up garbage and recycle. It's not going to include closing a landfill. It's not going to include long-term monitoring landfill, recycling operations. It's not going to include mowing the grass. So we need to remember what that number is. And I've asked Cleve to go back to that 112 and maybe pull out the operational costs that are ongoing and add that back in there. We still have, if we're not going to have a tipping fee, maybe we can operate it off commercial tipping fees, I don't know. But we need to compare apples to apples. And it's very complicated.
Okay, but now are we going to do a second RFP to seal the landfill? That's what I'm not clear on.
I think we got a partial grant for that, but that is our responsibility to do that.
But I didn't...
I thought we were going to assess a fee still. Yeah. Much lower fee, but still going to be some number.
If we choose to go with the vendor, there's probably going to have to be some type of assessment because the citizens of Wakulla County owns 3 landfills in this county for life. The cost will never go down in maintaining those landfills. You have to monitor the water, the remediation projects that have to take place, and this all has to be done by professional geologists, and and the reporting requirements. Used to, when you close the landfill, 20 years you're done with it. MedArc's been closed now, I think we looked it up the other day, pushing 33 years, and the county's still monitoring. In fact, last year, or year before last, we had to install 2 additional monitoring wells. So no matter what the county does, either goes with an assessment or a vendor, the county's going to have to start put in place a funding source for the long-term care of these 3 landfills in Wakulla County.
And what I'm saying is the 112...
What you were asking to figure out how much of the 112 would be needed for that.
Of that 112, I don't know, but $30 or $40 of it a year may have been simply the long-term costs and closing a landfill. We need to...
I can pull that out because we do have that. Yes.
Whatever we get, when we get this bid, we need to add that onto it to compare it to that 112, because that 112 covered everything. Just not picking it up.
Right, but that's also going to have to be advertised. I mean, a mailing's going to have to go out.
That is not a part of this process. This is, that will be done separately. I don't know if you have somebody, is Jay Yeagan it, Jones Edmonds going to do the...
If we don't do, if we choose a local vendor, you have money, closure money put aside now. It's not enough. We could do this. That assessment may come in next year, or we could do it this year. But that's we kind of got to get to the point of what we're going to do before we we got so many, we're juggling so many balls here. Like, what do we choose? But yeah, but you do have some money set aside, but it's not near enough, because I said the citizens of this community is going to own these landfills for life. You're paying for landfills from 30 years ago.
Heather, what's the cost of this RFP?
The cost of it?
Of sending it out?
Minimal?
I'm looking at.
It's just an advertisement? Okay, all right.
Not a problem.
We don't do a mail.
I don't think we need an exact figure, Cleve. I think it's just, it's $10 or $15 a year.
Yeah, and
when we get this bid back.
Yeah, what'll happen if we move forward with this, and let's say, and it may be a little higher because we've decided to buy out the companies, so it's going to increase the cost and it's going to make it more complicated to get approval. And I realize that, but I'm excited about the opportunity to help keep our local companies from having to suffer as much. So it's with mixed emotions as we move forward. But we can add on to that fee. If they come back with it's $20 a month, $25 a month, or it's $22 a month, and we can say, well, we'll add in $3 to cover the cost of every household, and then we'd have an extra $30,000 a year, give or take a little, to $40,000 a year to help monitor things. An extra staff person we could hire that we cover out of the cost. So if they come back with it's 22, we can make it 25, or whatever it ends up being, to help cover the cost of maintenance. And it's one solid fee they'll be paying per month.
I'm very curious to see what this number's going to be. So we decided to take out yard waste and add back in the buying out companies. Is that going to be part of this?
The what?
Did we add in buying the existing companies out to the RFP, or no?
It's already in there.
Okay, thank you.
And that's actually a good point. Heather, do you want to touch on that a little bit so that everybody can hear? I know I see a couple of them are in the room. I want to make sure they understand. We're probably going to be requesting an estimate of what 15 months gross receipts would be, probably by June 15th, which will be...
As soon as possible, we'll probably be getting with them on that, just so that we have some ballpark of what it would be.
Yeah, and as accurate as possible, because whichever company and the proposal they bring back to us, we need to know how much it's going to be, so they need to know how much they need the budget for that. So
I'm not saying anybody would do this, but why couldn't someone just say, I make $2 million?
They could. It would have to be. You'd have to drill down into it. What we're looking for now is a ballpark, and I'm assuming they will probably be high.
And Cleve does have disposal records from.
We have a pretty good idea of how many customers they have, and I have one of those individuals serves my personal address, so I know what they charge. So you can take the number of customers we know they have, or times the what it is. So it's not going to be hard for us to get that number.
Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anybody's dishonest, but when the BP oil people came in, I'm sure a few people exaggerated how many fish maybe
they'll have to give us their estimate, and then they'll have to prove it later if we move forward. So, but there'll be this first step will just be an estimate, and hopefully people are going to be honest because they know they have to prove it 6 months later.
Everybody's honest.
I think we're good.
Can I amend my motion to include the workshop that Heather recommended, a public hearing in July?
Sure. Second is friendly.
And the local preference?
I think so.
So Heather and I discussed local preference in great detail the other day. We can add it in if you like. I think it could help one of our local companies get it. Heather has expressed a concern that, it's up to y'all.
To the board, what do you want to do?
I'm for it.
Okay, it's fine with me. Local preference.
Yeah, sure. Local preference.
It's your motion.
That's fine.
Now the local preference is just be sure we're talking. It's 20%, right?
It's 5
to 200,000.
It's 5%, and in this case, it's points because this is an RFP, not 5% on price.
I think that'd be the right thing to do.
All right. Now, everybody's finished?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm just going to close with this, that I've heard two people. It sounds like I'm going to be the swing vote here when it comes down to coming down, so I'm going to tell you on the record now, since everybody else is going on the record, that I've been a good sport, and I really want to see what the number is, like Randy suggested, and and I don't want to just discuss this, I just want to say this, is I'm for the $112, have been and will be, unless this number blows me away somehow, because if I choose to recycle now, and I recycle some things, but if I choose to recycle now, I don't know how it's any different. I recycle and I take it over to the landfill and I put it in the recycling bin. I mean, other than the convenience of having it at my curb where the coons and everything else can get in it, the bears and all will have it strewn up and down Raywinkle Road, I'm not sure I see a whole lot of difference in what we're proposing to do, but I think, I mean, we blew it back when we had the chance to do the $112 before, and here we are with it on our plate again, and I'm hoping that's the direction we take. That'll be the direction I'm expecting to go, just so the public understands where I'm at. So now that we've all cast our opinion, and no more discussion, all for the motion.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is general business.
Thank you, Commissioner. First item under general business is request board approval of the top-ranked candidate for county administrator and authorize the chairman to begin negotiations.
I move that we do not accept either candidate for the county administrator position, and that we begin the search again after making some refinements to the search process. And I would appreciate a second for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second for discussion, but I
Okay, we have a second.
may withdraw.
Discussion. Okay.
Okay. I have made this statement before, and I would like to start off saying it again. I think very highly of both Pam Portwood and David Edwards. I think they are very accomplished professionals. I think they have wonderful skill sets, and I consider them friends, and I hope after this they'll still consider me friends. But I also I think the county administrator job is a very difficult job that requires both in-depth and a broad range of knowledge and skills. And for the sake of our county, I'm very eager that we get someone into the administrator position who will be functioning at a very high level right from the beginning. Now, I know that there are people who are going to interpret my not wanting to approve either of our top-ranked candidates as a put-down of them, and that's not how I'm viewing it. So I'm going to give you an example that I think may explain it in the best way I can, and hopefully will convince you why it's not a put-down. I have gone to school in medicine, and I've gone to school in public health. And most people would consider the medical degree as maybe a little more prestigious or whatever. I don't see them in competition so much as two very different arenas. And having gone through both curricula, I know how little overlap there is between the two. I would estimate it at 1% overlap. So if I am hiring a director of a health department, there actually is probably a bias toward hiring physicians to be the head of a health department. But personally, I don't think most physicians are qualified to be the head of a health department. And again, it's not a put down of the physicians. It's merely a statement of reality about the knowledge and skills and functions of clinical medicine versus public health. For me, if I'm hiring an administrator for a health department, I want somebody, not who knows clinical medicine, but I want somebody who knows all about the federal and state public health programs, all about the reporting requirements, all about prevention, things that they don't cover in medical school or that most doctors don't learn in their clinical practices. My preference for a health department administrator is someone who has a degree in public health and someone who has worked in health departments at an increasingly more responsible role across a broad array of programs. And so given a choice between a physician or someone who is specifically trained to be a public health administrator, I'm going to go for the public health administrator. And it's not a put down of the physicians. It's just trying to put the best fit, the best person into the job. So, again, I think we have two candidates. Both of them are stars in other arenas. There's no question about it. They are top performers in other arenas. And I actually am willing to agree that they could become top performing county administrators. But they aren't going to start off that way. Both of them have a tremendous amount to learn. And it's going to be, I would estimate, 5 years. Even though they're bright and skilled, my bet is it's going to take them 5 years to get to the point of really being the kind of professional administrator that we want in charge of the county. So, I don't know that I can say it any more clearly than that. I really think of all of the top 5 people we had, there was one who I think could come into the job and really, without a lot of learning, have managed all the things and moved our county forward in lots of important and productive ways without having to, learn so much and rely on other people and additional education to get up to speed. So that's where I am. I think the world of Pam and David. I truly do. The job fit is not what I'm personally think this county needs or what I personally would feel comfortable hiring. So that's where I am, and I would like to, we gave it a shot with the process we set up. I'd like to do some fine tuning. I think we had a lot of attrition. We lost a lot of candidates that I would have liked to have seen gone further in the process. So, I don't feel like we're in a rush. At this point in time, we've got Tim Barden as a very capable interim, and we're saving some money by keeping him on board, so I'd like to take another shot at it.
Any other commissioners at this point?
I have something to say on that. Basically, we're going to get an audit that's going to be very bad. The audit's going to be close. They may be nice, but it's going to be a very bad audit. And in my opinion, we're in this mess, possibly, because of a degree of public administration. Somehow it wasn't working. Somehow we built a government that was top-heavy. We were not willing to bring that government down. Bringing in, let's say, the person who decided he didn't want to be here, that, in my opinion, was going to be just government as usual. It was going to be cost as usual. It was going to be basically everything that government is, we were going to have that same thing going forward. My personal view is I want to get away from government as usual. I want to bring in a fresh approach to government. In my opinion, and every day as I wake up, government is the problem. Government is the problem. We need to change the way we do business. We need to treat government, we need to treat Wakulla the same way we treat our personal pocketbook. We cannot write checks personally unless we have the money in the bank. Well, let's say we should not write checks personally unless we have the money in the bank. But government just has a free hand. We just run over, we over budget, we do whatever we do, we hire too many people, we keep too many people, and we just go out and write checks on the citizens. It's amazing how that government has the bank account of the citizens. We need to run government as a business. We need to run government as a business. We can't run it as a social network.
Randy?
All I'm going to say about this, I'm not going to take a stance on anybody, but this is the logical conclusion to a democratic process set up following standards that we set upon ourselves and procedures. This is the result. We need to vote on this result and give the man a job.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Let me offer this, if you would. And this is a different perspective. And I won't read this because I carefully scripted this, and so just bear with me. And I would appreciate everyone listening, and I can't make you, but I'm just asking you to please listen.
Here, I'll listen.
This hiring process has been a long and exhausting process for all of us. As a public servant, I strongly believe in full public disclosure as it applies to me and to anyone who is employed by the county. It has come to my attention, and I believe to each of the board members, that there have been some ethical questions raised concerning Mr. Edwards' background, and I want to fully disclose these issues. The first is the Form 1 that is submitted as a Sopchoppy City Commissioner on May 6, 2010, in which he listed no major debts or intangible personal property. And by the way, I spoke to Mr. Edwards and informed him that I would be bringing this forward. However, his background check revealed that he in fact does have liabilities and intangible personal property that should have been reported. The Form 1 is the state's financial disclosure form that all elected officials and certain public employees are required to complete. According to the Florida Commission on Ethics, financial reporting is required by the state because conflicts of interest may occur when public officials are in a position to make decisions which affect their personal financial interest. Mr. Edwards later acknowledged some of his liabilities in a letter he submitted to us 11 days ago. But the omission of this information on Form 1 causes me great concern, because this correlates directly to the responsibilities of the county administrator. This position requires a meticulous person with the determination to see tasks through to conclusion and with great attention to detail. We all know that every action of the county administrator is open to great scrutiny. A prime example is our previous administrator, who was subjected to a high visibility ethics charge for a far less serious financial reporting offense. Second, I also asked Mr. Edwards on May 6, during our discussion of his background issues, if he had any federal IRS issues, and he twice denied that he had any problems with the federal IRS, but stated that he did have issues with the state of Georgia concerning state income taxes. I met with Mr. Edwards again on May 11th, and again asked if he had federal IRS issues, and he then told me he did, but he didn't think it was a big deal. I don't believe that Mr. Edwards was frank with me about these issues. This too greatly concerns me because, as commissioners, all of us need to be able to rely on information received from the county administrator. This is a crucial job component. I want to make it very clear that I have been completely open and have discussed all that I know as an elected public official concerning both the candidates here tonight. This is why, for all the above reasons, that I cannot support Mr. Edwards for this position. And as I said in previous meetings, I believe it's crucial that we be united behind whatever candidate is ultimately selected for the position of county administrator. Consequently, since we obviously are lacking a consensus, I'll go along with the motion that's on the floor and throw out all the candidates and start the process over. Now that's the ethical. I did my part as a public servant. You know, let the chips fall where they may. I've told you, I went to great extents to do a background investigation on both the candidates. I spent a lot of time doing this, and I didn't. And I'm not trying to in no way slander anybody's character. This bothers me when I get answers like that, when I have to depend on people who are going to be in that position to work at that level with me. It causes me great concern. So with that said, we have some citizens that want to be heard. Bob Danzy.
Hi, my name is Bob Danzy. I live at 9 Springview in Spring Creek. I wasn't aware of what you just read, Commissioner Stewart, but I appreciate that. I think where I come from on this, if I could give my opinion, is you had a process. You started off with rules. You went through it. It appears it was narrowed down to 2, and from what you just read, then maybe it appears it's narrowed down to 1. And in life experiences, very seldom, when I go back or I change my mind or I take the second option, they tell you when you're taking a test, you know, that second thought that you make and you change your answer, usually you take it from the wrong answer, or from the right answer and change it to a wrong answer. And that's what I'm afraid will happen here. In other words, we started with a process, it went through, and to second guess it just seems to be leave an opening for a mistake. I think that's just how, I think that's what I'm trying to convey to you, is be careful of second guessing.
And I agree totally, Mr. Danzy, and I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to everybody now. This has nothing to do with the process. This has to do with character, with what I have to depend on daily as a commissioner when I look at people and I want to know the information I'm getting is factual, that there's no doubt in my mind. That's why I read this. I couldn't read it to I couldn't tell the commissioners before tonight. I had to do it in a public setting. This is the only opportunity I had to tell everybody. Had they done their due diligence and looked at the same facts I did, they would have hopefully come to the same conclusion. I've offered it. Now they have to come to their conclusion on their own. I can't make them do that. I'm where I'm at because of what I know, and that's it. It has nothing to do with the process. I don't want to go down to the next one. I want to throw it out because I don't think it's fair to go to the next one. I think we got to start over.
Well, and I thank Commissioner Stewart for his statement. That was factored into my ranking. And I also want to thank the county attorney, because I think I know citizens have expressed concern that sometimes we don't do a thorough check. And our attorney recommended that we do an extremely thorough background check, financial, legal, and we did. But I also want to share something to me that was disturbing, because when I was talking about what Commissioner Stewart has just talked about with the county attorney, I asked her if all 5 commissioners were aware of this and had talked with her about it. And I was told, and maybe this is not still accurate, but that 2 of our commissioners didn't even accept that packet of background information. And I don't know which 2, but I think that's shirking your responsibilities to be finding someone who's going to be, you know, not getting into trouble, and that you can trust. So anyway, I just throwing that out there too.
Chuck Hickman.
Chuck Hickman, 528 Hickorywood Drive. Pardon me. I've been sitting here taking notes on some of the things that have been said by at least 3 of the commissioners, and one thing struck me. It's, first of all, it's not a sign of weakness, and it's really good and logical management
when you step back and you say, we haven't fulfilled our obligation, we got to do it right this time. And I think there wasn't enough time at some point. There wasn't enough time set aside by you commissioners, and maybe you needed a workshop to really do it, and set down the procedure a little bit more specifically, a little bit more clearly. For example, one thing I heard tonight that I didn't even know about was that you were looking for a consensus. I have never heard that until just recently, that it was going to take a consensus of the board. A 5-0 vote, it's hard to get 3 people to agree, let alone 5. So I think the process was somewhat flawed. The other thing is I agree in some respects you've got an audit coming up and you're going to be faced with a time frame issue, and the time frame, I believe, is something that you played perhaps too heavily on. It should have been understood that this was going to be a long, drawn-out process, not something that can be handled very quickly. And Ms. Arts and Mr. Stewart, you're right. Background checks are key. Some of the citizens have done their own background checks, and believe me, some of the things that have been dug up on some of the people, I don't even want to expose here. So it's something that I believe that whoever does a background check needs to put it in writing, and that written background check, probably from your Human Resource Department, to each of the commissioners on what has been found out, might be very revealing, even on those individuals that may reapply. I don't know that I would permit a reapplication. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Renee Calhoun.
Renee Calhoun, 211 Bettywood Circles. Commissioners, today is my 1-year anniversary since I first started paying attention to what this board does and does not do. As all of you know, I've learned a great deal about this administration of this county at this time, and after speaking with David Edwards and at the meet and greet, I'm very happy that he will be the new county administrator. I'm confident the residents of Wakulla County will benefit greatly from Mr. Edwards' expertise and experience, and I, for one, have no problem speaking to him directly when I find problems. I have no doubt Mr. Edwards will be a great administrator because he will spend many unpaid hours educating himself before he takes on the day-to-day operations and problems of this county. I do take issue with one thing, Commissioners, and I say many things that were said at the last meeting, especially by one commissioner. In the end, I think that this process worked and that the majority of this board made the right decision in their rankings. Thank you for a job well done. This should have been something that came out a lot earlier. Commissioner Stewart probably shouldn't have waited until the 6th of May to ask the questions and so on. I do have one issue that if you do decide to make Mr. Edwards the county administrator, I don't think that the chairman should be in charge of the negotiating of the contract. Commissioner Stewart made it clear from the day Pengree resigned that he wanted Pam Portwood to be the new county administrator, and I'm concerned his bias may hinder the negotiating process. Commissioners Merritt and Moore have the experience and are capable of negotiating the contract, or let the county attorney do it. Please pick someone other than the chairman. I hope the negotiations will be fair and fast, because Mr. Edwards' county staff and Wakulla residents need to begin to work together sooner rather than later to fix the many problems everyone knows about and the ones that are about to come out. I look forward to what this new administrator can and will do, and I once again hope you make the right decision.
Larry Roberts.
Commissioners, Larry Roberts, Sop Choppy. Months ago, I looked at, 4 dozen resumes. There were 3 that I've felt were superior to all the rest. I don't remember 2 of the names. Mr. Reed was one of them. I wish he were here this evening. Mr. Edwards, I know nothing really about other than his resume was not of the quality of a lot of the other people that I read. Ms. Portwood, I have concerns about her. According to the Wakulla News of just a few weeks ago, there was a project that she was responsible for over in St. Mark's, and she was not able to manage that small amount of money properly. I certainly question whether she would be able to manage the money that for the county. Thank you.
Okay. Steve Fultz.
Good evening, Commissioners. Steve Fultz, 35 Montecoup Circle. I had prepared a statement. I'll finish that in just a moment, but I would like to say my personal opinion is this is purely and simply all about politics. The reason it's about politics is I believe that the chairman likes to have complete control and power. Mr. Edwards is not the lapdog he's looking for. That's my opinion. I just wanted to take a minute to say how pleased I am with the ranking procedure itself, which was used to select our new county administrator. It was well thought out and fair to each and every applicant. Congratulations to Mr. Edwards. I'm certain he'll do his level best and be successful in guiding our county through these difficult times as our new administrator. As for the overall procedure, Chairman Stewart indicated publicly that the entire process should be thrown out and started over again in the event a unanimous consensus could not be reached. A little deja vu. This would seem to me to be a tremendous waste of time and money, which this county is known for, as Mr. Edwards has clearly won fair and square. Additionally, Chairman Stewart did not select Mr. Edwards as his number 1 and preferred hiring the other finalist. It seems only appropriate and fair that the chairman relinquish his position as sole negotiator and allow the county attorney or some other non-biased entity to negotiate Mr. Edwards' contract for the board to consider. Again, congratulations, Mr. Edwards. His capability, tenacity, and desire hopefully have paid off. I sincerely wish him the very best in his new endeavor. Please vote to confirm Mr. Edwards. Thank you.
Jackie Lawhon.
I just wanted to bring a little clarity to the situation with the financial statement for the City of Sopchoppy election. I'm Jackie Lawhon, City Clerk for the City of Sopchoppy. In June of this past year, David Edwards qualified as the City Council for the City Council of the City of Sopchoppy. He was unopposed. We had 3 positions open and 3 councilmen that stepped forward to fill these positions. We sometimes have a little hard time in Sopchoppy finding commissioners. It's a very difficult task, on a little bit smaller scale than what you all do, but we don't pay our commissioners anything, and they meet probably as many times a month or close to it as you all would meet. And so when we have somebody step forward, we're so glad to get them. But I reviewed all the financial records with David, qualifying papers with David, as I do with every commissioner that comes in. At that time, David was supervisor of a sewer project that we had going on there in Sopchoppy with Allings Excavating. I stress with him the importance of this financial statement is that the people deserve to know of any conflict that you might have in the community, so that your vote, if it's influenced one way or another, it needs to be known. So that's what he and I discussed and really got into details about. So that's what he filled in was all of that. He had just moved to Florida not too long before that, so he didn't go into any other the intangibles or tangibles. His was a misunderstanding of what I was trying to say to him. I was just simply trying to talk about what was so important for the people to know, to the point that I think he probably misread what I was saying to him at the same time. So some of the fault could be mine, the fault could be his, but there was nothing in what he did that was meant to hide anything from the people. He was very upfront with me in our discussions. I think he was upfront with anybody else that has asked him anything, and I just wanted to go on record to say that, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I say something? Sure. Basically, when you're in free enterprise to the level that Mr. Edwards has been, you are in a world that's totally different than probably anybody in Wakulla understands or has been there. I imagine Mr. Edwards has probably been in a level where I would myself would have liked to have been. Unfortunately, I just didn't have the talent to do that. Mr. Edwards has no criminal background. He has no indictment. He has no investigation. He has the same thing that 100 other executives have. Things around the side that are just because of the volume of the transaction and of the kind of work that he does. He is a high-powered executive, and we would be really, and he would do us such a good job. I would love to have his talent. If I had a business going today, I would hire him 10 to 1. I would absolutely love to have his talent.
Okay. Gail Hickman.
I'm Gail Hickman. I live at 528 Hickorywood Drive. I didn't expect to stand up here and say anything, so I have just some quick thoughts. The contract that Ben Pingree had was beautiful for him, not good for the county. And I believe that our attorney should be the one that puts it together for your total review and not Mr. Stewart. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart, sorry. Go ahead. I'm one of the people that took a cursory glance at these background papers. It was about this thick, and I think it was a complete waste of trees. I asked Debbie, has the man been convicted of a felony? Has he committed perjury, or has he embezzled money? I don't care. Someone's past does not define who they are. I made my judgment. I ranked David number 1. And by the way, I didn't know the man from Adam, even though he's from Sopchop, but he didn't live there when I was there. It turns out I was friends with his little brother, but I hadn't talked to him till the day he came and interviewed in my office that day, and I ranked him number 1 after I talked to him. I don't care about details in the past, and I'm sorry that it's got to this point where we can't agree. Mr. Stewart, I understand your position, but it's not as important to me as it is to you, I guess. I think the man would do a good job, but that's my opinion. I don't see anything in a background that would... I mean, when I took over the Public Works, I was 29 or 30 years old. If I'd have turned my resume in and tried to get this board to hire me, there's no way I would have ever got the job. And I think I did a good job. I think a lot of people will say I did a good job. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, as someone who was on a board when Mr. Pingree was being attacked for ethical violations, I don't want to go through that again. And that's why the Form 1 is important, because that's what Mr. Pingree had a minor error on, a date error, whatever. And this is omissions. So I don't know. I don't want to go through that again.
I understand and I appreciate it, but we're talking about the future administrator of this county being decided over a form being filled out correctly. That's my opinion. That may not be what you're saying, but that's my opinion. I heard what Jackie said. I'm a pretty good judge of character. I think the man's got a good.
Then you missed
character.
what else I said and all the other stuff I just read.
I don't want to, I don't want to hash it back up. I understand what you.
Well, I do. I want it to be clear to the public. I'm trying to make full public disclosure of the facts. And the facts are what they are. I asked, I was told no, I asked again.
I appreciate that, but maybe the facts just don't matter as much to me, I guess.
I'm going to defer to the attorney, because the attorney this is important to me. I want the attorney to weigh in and tell me, if for nobody else, can this be an issue, what I read?
Can it be an issue?
I mean, is it something we could hear again later? Is it something that we need to be concerned about from a legal perspective? If no, then I'm fine, and we'll move on.
I mean, from a legal perspective, as of liability on the county, I don't think that's an issue. I think it's for something each of you can certainly weigh in making your decision about who you want to put in a position of trust.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything about it. I've made the full public disclosure. Y'all know what I know, and
I would like to say one more thing about the 5-0.
Yes.
Because, and I agree with Mr. Hickman, that wasn't stated early on in the process. This isn't the first meeting at which it's come up, and I have heard that recommendation from a number of sources. Rich Reed, in fact, that was one of his. He wasn't convinced that he had the support of all 5 commissioners, and most administrators like to start off knowing that they've got 5 people who have confidence in them and are willing to work with them. And I know Tim Barton has talked about how fortunate he feels to have the support of 5 commissioners. So, you know, I guess when it was initially proposed that it would be desirable to have us all be in agreement about who we wanted, it made sense to me, because I had heard that recommended from other people whose opinions I respect.
Okay, Alan?
So, more so than some of the other people on this board, well, never mind. I put a lot of thought into this process. I voted for David first all 3 times. Part of the process in this last decision was a difficult one, because I think David and Pam could do the job. I voted for Dave because I think he could. I think he's someone our whole board could work with. That's still the goal. What I was trying to figure out was who could our whole board work with in this process. I want our staff to be able to move forward. I want the best talent that we can get for the money that we're paying. David was willing to work for the prices we were talking with. We went through and eliminated a lot of people. I was really excited about having him. I'm still excited. I talked with David about his Form 1. He gave me an answer that I thought was appropriate. That was a mistake, and he told me he was going to amend it. As far as the tax-related questions went, David called me early, and we talked on the phone, and he went over them with me. So I was comfortable with those answers. I was aware of them. I talked at length with the county attorney and with Debbie and our Human Resources Department about all of the background information. Hours. I talked hours. And I appreciate them letting me distract them while I tried to make this decision. I would actually, if the chair would allow, I'd like to have see if David would like to have anything to say, since we've discussed him for so long. David, would you like to address us?
Thank you. I think what Jackie said was on the disclosure form was we were sitting in there the last moment. It was my first time as a public servant. I filled out forms. Jackie says, this form. I said, okay, well, let me fill it out. I filled out this. She said, make sure you disclose you work for Islands Excavation. That's our most important. We want to make sure of that, because you still have a contract with the city, and we've got to do that. I filled that out. I said, okay, now the rest of the stuff I've got to go get other stuff. So we talked about it a second. She says, don't worry about it. You'll be getting a full disclosure package this coming up year. I said, okay, fine with me. That's the long and the short of exactly what happened. And you know what? I'm sorry, but that's my first time ever filling out the financial disclosure for a government entity. That's all I got to say.
Do you have any other comments about anything else discussed?
Well, I think I understand where Commissioner Stewart is coming from, but at the end of the day, we all go through, life happens to a bunch of us, like Commissioner Moore was saying, and, over the past 5 years, I've had my share of, from the economic collapse of the real estate market, running at a high level, and then all of a sudden having issues such as that. Yes, those issues happen, and with the state as well as with the IRS. In process of handling those, taking care of the situations as they have arisen, I haven't backed off of anything. Can I do the job? Not a problem. I will be the best administrator this county's. My thing is please ask me questions about the job I can do, because that's what you would be hiring me to do, is do my job, and I guarantee you that I can do my job. So, I understand where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, I will be the best administrator for this county, because I can come in and make changes that will bring this county around, and I want to work with the staff, I want to work with the commission to do that, and I can do that. I can build consensus. So that's all I have to say.
So, Commissioner Arntz, this is your motion. If we start over, how do you envision? Because I'm curious. Because I'm of the opinion. Again, I picked Mr. Edwards because I think he has the person who, of all the candidates we were down to, could work best with our full board. That really was the final decision for me. Who do I think our board will be willing to work with? Tonight we have people on our board who have expressed an opinion that they find it might be difficult to work with Mr. Edwards because they lack trust, which is a very important thing, which makes it a complicated decision. That's the issue I'm trying to figure out. Because my goal, for me, is I want someone we can all rely on and we can all work forward with, who can work with our board. How would you envision, if we started this process over, how would you envision it starting over? Because we've now gone through the process where we went with this requirement, the requirements we set up at the very beginning. We said that college degrees weren't important, we want to do an emphasis on local. I think going through that process, we've gotten where we are. If we're going to continue that process again, I think we'd end up where we are, and I think Mr. Edwards can do a great job with it. And again, he's answered the questions to me in a way that I'm comfortable with. Does not help though, Randy, when you say facts don't matter. With the whole
what I
situation.
mean.
I know what you
Worded that one wrong.
Yeah. But my question goes: if
I would like to start over with a discussion about, first, I think this board would do well to receive a little more information about all the responsibilities and activities of the county administrator, because I'm not sure everyone here fully appreciates the complexities and the breadth of knowledge and skills that someone has to have to handle this job. So I would like that. And then I would like us to review the ad, because I personally, and I'm really disappointed that Mr. Reed wasn't here for the public interview, because I know even just in the personal interviews, when you ask a question to somebody who already understands and knows how to do things, he can describe in very specific ways either what he's done somewhere else or what he would do. Whereas when I interviewed Pam and David, for example, the usual response was along the lines of, well, I'm going to have to spend the first so many months, 6 months, whatever, spending time finding out what each department does and so forth. And it's not even just what each department does. So I was hoping that by comparing someone like Mr. Reed to some of our other candidates who didn't have local government experience, that people on this board would begin to appreciate how much someone who has that kind of experience brings. And so I'm a little less concerned maybe about the degrees, but I think the experience is essential. And so I would like us to, we did our ad, it was I think Randy and Jerry's very first commission meeting. I mean, they were still in campaign mode. They've learned a lot. I think we've all learned a lot through this process, and I would like to go through our ad and really help to clarify what we think are important attributes, qualifications, experiences, and advertise again. I also think we suffered heavily from attrition, and so there's things I would like to know do differently in the process, so that maybe we're including more candidates in our initial rankings. Maybe we're doing checks earlier to find out who's still available. Maybe we're doing background checks earlier to bring issues to light sooner. Yeah, I think these are all, each of us has gone through it. I know I have lots of ideas for things I would do differently and hopefully better, and give us, a more full range of candidates to pick through, I think.
I'll say two things real quick. Number one, let me clarify the fact thing so I don't end up in the newspaper. What I should have said is some facts matter more than others. Is it a fact that I broke the law today? Yes, I drove 56 miles an hour on 319. Does that mean I'm a bad person? No. I guess that's the best analogy I can think of. Some facts matter more than others. Number two, Miss Arts, I'm not saying this facetiously, but if we did this again, do you think Richard Reed would turn out to be the top candidate?
I don't think he would come back, but I think we would find other people of his caliber who would come to interview.
I would like to say that, with all due respect to Ms. Arts, basically, you and I are in daylight and dark, 180 degrees apart. I don't want a public administrator that has a degree in public administration. I don't want to go county as county's been. I want a fresh approach. I want a creative person who hasn't been, let's say, tainted by government. Mr. Edwards has run numbers of companies. You talk about experience. Mr. Edwards has run numbers of companies doing hundreds of millions of dollars, and he has run all phases of those countries. Experience. If we want a perfect individual, let's find somebody in the 5th grade that's never done anything. If you want somebody who's perfect, try to find somebody who's never done anything. That's a perfect. Maybe they're perfect, but experience. I just don't want government as usual. We are a problem. We've got to get out of the problem of being government. We've got to.
Well, and I think when you make a generalization or lump everything together, it's not, it's just a stereotype or prejudice that I don't think is useful in the discussion. First of all, this county is in the situation it is in part because of the commissioners who were on the board. I know Mr. Pingree took a lot of flack, but it was the decisions the board was making that really are where the responsibility lies for where the county is. Now, we depend on information to make those decisions, and I think that's in part why Mr. Stewart feels so strongly about, his concerns. But, one county administrator is not like another county administrator. I wasn't here when Ben Pingree was hired. So I don't even know that much about what his background was before he came here, but I don't think he had the management experience probably that I would like to see. And again, he was just one person. Like going back to Mr. Reed, for example, he had track record from 4 different jurisdictions, and you could look at what he had done and how he had done it, and you could either like or not like what he had done, but you had something specific on which to evaluate it. And David Edwards, again, he was a star in his previous professional life, but now he is changing careers completely. And I remember when Michael Jordan switched from basketball to baseball. he didn't do so well in baseball. So the fact that you were a star in one professional arena is no guarantee you're going to be able to come in and be as effective as I want this county to have. And I also, the learning curve is just, I want somebody now who's not going to have to be learning what every single thing means.
This county's 35,000 people. We're rural Wakulla County, south of Tallahassee. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to run this county.
Okay, let's rein it in, and we got a motion and a second on the floor, and we can move on with the vote here.
This is the vote to do it all again?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out if we throw it all out, what actually happens. Because again, it goes back to the reason I picked Mr. Edwards is I thought he had the best chance of working with our full board. If he can't work with our full board, then we probably need to pick someone else. But that being said, the goal being for me, because I don't think we'll ever get 5 votes for whoever we pick. I think that's an unrealistic expectation. I agree it is night and day between Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Arts, and they will rarely agree. I would be impressed to find the candidate that could make them both happy.
Actually, Richard was his top candidate once the others were eliminated.
Actually, somehow you got that reversed.
Well, anyway, okay.
Somehow.
It was 3.
Mr. Reed went in the trash can when I got his application. I do not want a public administrator
Okay, I'm sorry.
in my position.
I should have mentioned it again. I apologize, but no, it's not going to work. But I do think we can aim for some sort of supermajority. I think there could be a person that 4 of us could agree on, optimistically. But I'm not sure how we pick that person and what to make that come with. I was optimistic, and maybe foolishly, that Mr. Edwards could be that person. As I try, because I'm trying to figure out how to move forward. I actually thought we could get all 5 of us. I thought he could be our unanimous person. And I'm not sure what to do. And I'm not sure, but if we start over, and we can't agree on a process to start over, then I'd rather have Mr. Edwards and start moving forward.
Alan, I'd ask you to vote what you think, not what you think we're going to get along with. What do you think about the man? That's how I'm voting. It's not how I think he's going to get along with everybody else.
I have every confidence in in David's ability to do everything, but that's not. There's 5 of us, and we need someone who can work with all 5 of us. That's for really. That's just how I work. And we are the board of directors, as it's been explained, and it doesn't do me any good if one of the person overseeing our day-to-day operations can't interact with the chair of our board. And I'm not saying I think you would get along with him if he was our person, but I'm just saying it's bad to start off where he has to regain that confidence.
And to paraphrase what you said earlier, though, when it comes to a decision like this, we probably all cut in 5 degrees of sunshine.
Right.
So I would ask you to vote your conscience on that.
Okay. Any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2. Throw it out and start over. Okay, next item.
Thank you, Commissioner. The next item up on the agenda is request consideration to select and submit a road project for the Small Counties Road Assistance Programs, SCRAP acronym, for the 2011-2012 program list. Basically, this is just getting board approval for the 2 roads that ESG, or Public Works Department, is recommending. Those roads are Trice Lane, existing 20-foot right-of-way, 1.7 miles total length, and Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial Boulevard, existing 22-foot right-of-way, and 3.83 miles of total length.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Merritt, second by Mr. Brock. Option.
No, motion to approve them. Which option is that? One?
Option 1, which is Trice Lane. Okay? Is that what you wanted, Mr. Merritt?
Maybe I'm a little...
I'm sorry, I should have been a little bit clearer on that, sir. That there's 2 options. Well, there's actually 3 options, but I think you're going to need to pick if you want to do both roads.
Cleaver, let me back up a second, all right? These are scrap projects, which means they're funded at 100%.
Yes.
And which road, in your opinion, is in more desperate need?
We only can submit, we originally thought we could submit two, but we only can submit one road. And we picked the roads that are in the Crawfordville area that will help traffic on 319 ranks the highest. And that's why we rank Trice Lane number one.
Okay.
MLK would be a decent road because it connects 98 and 319. We'll probably add that on the next cycle. We really believe that Trice Lane will get highly ranked. Again, all we're doing is submitting these roads to DOT. DOT comes down here. We're not part of the process. They do they inspect the road. They rank the road against every other small county's roads in District 4. So all we're doing is nominate the road, but DOT selects the roads.
Is there any way to widen Trice Lane at all?
We're gonna.
It says existing 20-foot right way, but it is going to be.
We're going to try to work with the drainage and improve the width of it, but it's very tight, as you know.
Yes, I know.
So we're fine with Trice Lane?
Trice Lane.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve and submit Trice Lane for the scrap 2011-2012 project. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And you wanted to talk about the racing.
Do you want to do you want to do commissioner items in the county? No, there's none of that. None? Okay. I'll go right into my items.
That's all your general business items?
Yep.
But did you want to talk about the racing?
I was going to do it under county administrator items.
Okay. That's fine. All right. Citizens to be heard. Howard Kessler.
Thank you. Howard Kessler, 251 Levy Bay Road. A couple of things I reflected on as I heard this discussion, and that is a consensus, which I don't know how you're going to achieve that without having 5 votes. I'm chairman and president of CCAL, Concerned Citizens of Wakulla. We work by consensus. I can tell you our meetings take a long time, and sometimes we can't get to a consensus, which would mean in your case that you'd never hire anybody. You each have 1 vote. I remember when I was sitting, when Mr. Pooley's contract came up, whether I did right or wrong, I voiced my concerns about that contract. I voiced my concerns about the golden parachute. There were an overwhelming number of votes that were going in that direction to hire. I had to work with that administrator, and I tried to. And I think you have the responsibility to vote, not necessarily by consensus, but to hire someone and understand that it may not be your first choice, but it may be someone you have to work with. Thank you.
Okay. Steve Fultz.
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Fultz, 35 Montecoupe Circle in Panacea. Commissioner Arts, at last Monday's special meeting, made several impassioned comments regarding an applicant's withdrawal from consideration for Wakulla County Administrator. I find it neither incredibly narrow-minded nor destructive, her words, but rather consistent with the betterment of our county to give preference to local vendors or applicants. Commissioner Arts voted for an ordinance giving such preference to local vendors, so shouldn't the concept also apply when shopping for a county administrator? I'd suggest it was her applicant, Mr. Reed, not the other commissioners who were penny wise and pound foolish, her words, by letting a few $100s of travel expense stand between him and a potential 6-figure salary. Her comment that he was the only one who hasn't just dreamed, her word, of being a capable county administrator is terribly disrespectful to the other 2 candidates who were present. And I'm not grieving over what might have been, her words, but rather joyous that those with the required determination and fortitude persevered and didn't just give up when the going got a little rough. The statement, Our hatchet men and women are sharpening their blades. Her words makes it clear to me that Commissioner Arts is simply not capable of adequately dealing with addressing factual data. One of the duties of an elected official is to deal with unpleasant issues. Commissioner Arts' labeling of those who bring unpleasant but factual information to the board as mean-spirited is an attempt to avoid her responsibility to address such information. Please, Commissioner Arts, just share one specific untruth to justify your public condemnation of those whom you demean. Rather than killing the messenger, why not at least read and analyze the message? I feel many of her comments were character assassinations and just plain mean-spirited, which reflects a lack of the tolerance and goodwill, her words, that she herself stated so many others lack. Thank you.
Larry Roberts.
Yes.
Charles Hickman.
Charles Hickman, 528 Hickorywood Drive. Previously on the agenda, I believe it was item number 7, where you're going for an RFP, and I have a question that perhaps later can be addressed, but I'm kind of curious what curbside is defined as. I live on a private drive, and in this county, a lot of private drives were established back in the late 80s, or early 80s, I'm sorry. And so whenever they paved the road, our road, Hickorywood Drive, they came down to the private drive and they stopped. Now, does that mean that if I want my trash picked up, I've got to bring it down my driveway and all the way out to the public road? And the private drive is like 1,800 feet long, and heavy trucks going down there tear it up. Believe me, I'm the one that goes out there most of the time and tries to fix potholes because it's just a sand road. It never gets scraped by the county. The county doesn't maintain it, and I don't expect them to. But what I kind of wonder is, like, who's going to be fixing all these potholes that these trucks pulling down there if the curb is like your mailbox, or is the curb the public road? So in your RFP, I'm requesting that at least there be a definition of what curbside is, because I think to me it's confusing anyway.
Okay. Bob Danzy.
Bob Danzy, I live at Spring Creek, 9 Springview. It's my recollection that the rules state that if you're in a meeting and you vote on something, that you can bring it back up and vote on it again. I guess that's what I'm suggesting that you do. I object to starting over this process. You came down to this gentleman that's here, and if he is not appropriate, then you have what would be the next best. And as I stated before, to second guess is usually a bad decision. Almost always. Bad things come when you second guess. I wouldn't object to if you revote on your 2 finalists, and that's what you want to do. But to start the whole process over, I'm just not sure is a fair thing for the community in general. I don't think it's fair on all the applicants, and some of my friends were eliminated. Some of my really good friends were eliminated, and I would like to have seen them in the final 2. They weren't. It was a process, and it worked. And y'all set forth with the rules, and now you're rewriting them. I just don't think that is a good precedence to set. So you'll do what you decide, and I'll appreciate it and respect it. But I would like to see you go back and revote.
I'm not sure everybody was comfortable with their vote when they voted 3-2 to start over. So, thank you for hearing me.
Okay. And next item is Commissioner agenda items. Any there? No. County Attorney? No. County Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a few just discussion items, really. And I'm going to go a little bit out of order here because I got some people here that have been waiting, and so I want to recognize them. We've got a few vacancies that have occurred over the last few weeks. People leaving their jobs or getting transferred out or, retiring. So I just wanted to give the board an update as to where we are with some of those. I found out last week that Mr. Mark Lomberg, our Executive Director over at the Health Department, is moving on. He's here in the audience tonight. He's decided to retire, so we're going to be getting a new Health Director at some point. They've appointed Pat Juarez as the interim. I fully support that. I think Pat will be great. I hope he gets the job full time. So I just want to alert the board to that and to wish Mark good luck and in his future and whatever else he's going to do. I'm sure he'll be successful at. He was a great asset to us, and we'll surely miss him. But I think Pat's a great interim, and we look forward to working with him.
Very good.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you both.
The next one is, as we know, Doug Jones retired. Everybody, we had a retirement party for him down at the library. Last week I appointed Scott Joyner. I think he's already left the audience. He was here earlier, as the interim library director. And Scott will remain in that position. I don't think we're going to advertise it. I think he's served well under Doug. He's ahead of the curve in most candidates that would be. So I'm willing to leave him in that position until we can make him full-time director. So,
and he's in the process of earning his master's in library science. And that's what's the step that we're waiting on.
MLS?
It's MLS.
Multiple listens.
Yes. Okay. So he's supposed to get that sometime next year. So we'll just we're going to go with Scott, and we wish him well, and I know he'll be a great asset.
Do you know? I had someone raise this concern to me, and since you brought it up, we may need to, for grant purposes, have a librarian with a master's of library science. We may need to look to Wilderness Coast to serve as a interim librarian with a library science master's degree.
Yes, from my conversation with Doug is that they were okay with the process that we were going through, and we've had it all covered. So
I just don't know if you needed approval from us or needed to bring it back for us to authorize that, and if so, please do.
Okay, I will, sir. Thank you. And last but not least, as I told you last meeting, Scott Jackson is taking another job in a different county. We're going to be losing him, another valuable asset to the county. I met with IFAS last week, and Scott and Shelley Swenson, who will be filling in as an interim. They're going to go through a selection process to hire their next director. It's a unique situation because University of Florida pays a portion of their salary, so we get a master's degree executive director at a minimal cost to the county. So they requested that, wanted to know what involvement I wanted in the process, and I just told them to go through it. They wanted to know if I wanted to see their top three or their number one candidate. I just said, we'll wait and just give me your best candidate, and we'll, I'm sure you'll vet them thoroughly, and we'll move on. So they're gonna start that process. They say it takes 4 to 6 months. So Shelley Swenson is going to be filling in. I think Shelley's very qualified. I have no doubt that she'll do a great job. And we've worked with her before. We continue to work with her, and we'll give her all the support that she needs. It's a bonus in one area is that we'll be saving that salary for the next 6 months while they do their search. I guess it's a pretty extensive process. So. But that's pretty much it on the updates on our positions, just so you're aware of where we are with everybody and who's been moving around and who we've lost. So the next item is just a cleanup item, commissioners. Last year we bid out our insurance, our liability automobile insurance, and we held off on doing FAT because we didn't give them the notice, required notice that they were to bid it out. I'm just asking now if we still want to go ahead and bid that out, because we need to get the chairman to sign a letter authorizing us to, telling FACT that we're going to bid that out. And I'll just say this: we've had great working relationship with FACT. It's not a matter of not liking their job performance. I know our HR people use them extensively, and they provide great training and services to the county. But we did tell the board we were going to bid that out, so I just want to make sure that that's still the direction that you want us to move in and go ahead and bid out that portion of our insurance.
Commissioner Stewart, I'll make whatever motion you suggest.
We paying a fair amount for what we get? I
mean, you got to look at. I mean, I got to take advice from the attorney. She suggests that in the staff that we bid it out and see if we can get a lower bid. I would say to you that fact is they offer a lot of things to the staff and us for training that the other company may not. And I talked to Heather and Tim about this today. Was if we do bid it out, that we put those kind of issues in the request for proposal or for bid. That the other company, there's really one other company that's PGIT that will probably be a main bidder. That they be able to bid, likewise, we get apples for apples, because fact does offer a lot of things that the other company doesn't.
Is PGIT a governmental or NGO, or is it? It's a company, or is it a governmental organization?
It's a trust.
Or I think it's government.
Preferred governmental.
But you got to remember how much fact has done. I mean, it was in one year they did about $750,000 worth of legal work that we didn't have to pay. Now, what's the result? Our fees are going to go up. Whatever company you have, your fees are going to go up.
We pay one way or the other.
So the bottom line is, I don't have a preference. I'll disclose I'm on the board. I'm a non-paid member. I don't care.
If it doesn't cost anything, I don't think it'll hurt to look. I mean,
we can certainly test the market, and like the chairman said, we can put that in an RFP, not just do a bid for pricing. We can ask to provide those services that we currently get.
Doesn't cost anything,
and see what the comparison is.
That's fine.
Yeah, they've treated us really well. That was the main issue I had. I know with Commissioner Stewart being on their board as a volunteer, and with some of the trainings they've offered our staff, I've been overwhelmingly pleased with FACT. The liability that they've given us, they've done a good job for our community. But you have a motion to bid it out? I'll second.
Make a motion?
Yeah.
Make a motion, then.
I just want to get a head nod that we can get a letter under the commissioner's, the chairman's signature to send to them, to let them know, give them notice.
My head's nodding.
Fine with me. Okay.
The last thing is, it's very good news. I'm sure you've all heard that we've been accepted into the RACIC, the Florida's Northwest Rural Area of Critical Concern. We've been trying to get into one of those one way or another. On May 5th, the governor signed an executive order accepting Wakulla into that RACIC. The counties that are included in that RACIC are Calhoun, Franklin, Gadsden, Gulf, Jackson, Holmes, Liberty, Washington, and area within the city of Freeport. So I want to take this opportunity to thank our staff. Our RACIC is going to provide an economic development opportunity, more grant opportunities, which hopefully will create more jobs. There's a lot of benefit for a small rural county to be in a RACIC. So I wanted to shout out to Jennifer Langston and our staff. A lot of people ask by her title what Jennifer does. It's more like what Jennifer doesn't do. So, and this is one of them. She was very instrumental in getting this in front of the governor. Also, our county attorney and her staff, very instrumental in shepherding us through the process and providing support to get us to RACIC. So, and then other people in the community that lobbied to the governor's office and
Small County Coalition was very supportive.
And Commissioner Brock, of course, Commissioner Brock. We need to thank him for his ongoing support for this process. So, I just want to give a shout out to everybody and say thanks.
It's important that you thank them, by our legislative delegation, Representative Bembry, Representative Coley, Senator Montford, the governor, all went out and helped push this effort for us. We really appreciate that. We were one of 3 rural counties of a little over 30 some odd counties in the state that are classified as rural that were not considered a critical area of economic concern. And it's unfortunate that the economy has taken us to the point that we now qualify for that, but I'm hoping that the programs that they offer us will give us the opportunity, the extra hand that will help us get back on our feet and help us get out of that classification and help our entire community prosper. I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I appreciate everyone's effort and support for it.
That all
I have.
items? Okay. Discussion issues. Mr. Merritt, you said you had some?
I got 4 items real quick. CRTPA meeting is next month, and I think that's where we're going to start getting the draft work plan, and I'm going to do whatever I got to do to try to get us on that list. Mr. Stewart, I know you mentioned this one time. If I have to lay on the floor like a 5-year-old at Walmart, I mean, I'll do it just to try to get something, maybe some intersection improvements. We're not going to get 319 4-lane, but trust me, I'll do the best I can. And
why we put you on there.
Good. And on the RASIC, since we're in that, we now have the option to combine fire and EMS under one MSBU. I think we need to really consider that. That would be $900,000 we could take out of ad valorem taxes if we got rid of the EMS, correct, out of the ad valorem taxes.
I think it's 1.1 that we would save in ad valorem.
That's more than a mill. We could drop the millage rate, and you still pay for it, but you pay for it via MSBU. And I'd really like us to look at that. I just encourage all y'all to keep thinking about it. While I was at the CRTPA today, I was sitting next to Mayor Marks, and Jefferson County representative was joking around that they didn't have any traffic lights in Jefferson County, yet they had a roundabout, which of course goes around the courthouse. And Mayor Marks says, well, you can't have stoplight cameras. I asked him, I said, do you get a lot of revenues from these? And he says, well, heck yeah, we do. He said, and it cuts down on crashes. Maybe that's something we should look at. I don't know, just throwing it out there.
Wait. The Wakulla County Sheriff's Office, hang on, the Wakulla County
And the
Sheriff's
consensus
Office.
in the audience is that no one really wants that, so let's move on to the next item.
Oh, hang on. The Wakulla County Sheriff's Office has already been thoroughly researching in that, so if, you might want to talk to them about what they...
I think the item's dead as far as I'm concerned.
And things that never help you to be too honest about. I actually think for a lot of reasons that if we could do them, it was worth talking about. But the state of Florida has said they're illegal. They've taken them out of something you can actually do this last
I
year.
didn't know if they made a kind that the tag said what color, just throw it out.
Yeah, no, the state of Florida, after allowing them last year, then said this year they aren't.
That's enough talk about that.
Okay. They still have them in Tallahassee, though, don't they?
Yeah.
July 1st.
Oh, is that it?
Last item, we had a vote recently about the administrator. I didn't agree with the 3 votes, but I accept it. And I hope we all can keep that attitude in the future. This is how our government works. It's a majority vote, majority spoke. That's the way it is. And I don't have any hard feelings.
Okay. Mr. Brock, any items?
Yeah, I just want to update y'all a little bit. This coming up on June 3rd. Okay, so I want to just invite everybody to join ESG operations in the Sheriff Department for a benefit fish fry for Deputy Bill Metcalf and Donna Buchanan. Their family lost their home in a fire on May 6th. The fish fry will be held on June 3rd, 2011 from 11:30 to 1 at Hudson Park. If you're interested in purchasing a ticket, please call 926-7616. Again, that number is, if you're interested in purchasing a ticket, call 926-7616. Donna works for ESG and Billy works for the Sheriff's Department, and it's one of these things we're trying to do as much as we can to help people associated with our community. It'll be fried fish, grits, baked beans, and a brownie. And it's $6 a plate, so that's a great deal, and it helps.
That number, by the way, is the same number as the road department. In case anybody can catch it.
ESG,
Everybody knows where that number is.
The junior RTC is also selling those tickets. If you see any of those kids trying to sell tickets, that's what they're selling them for the fundraiser for that family. Yes, I have something. Okay, are you through, Mr.?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, I was coming that way.
Okay. Sorry about that. Tim, now that we have thrown the system out, you're in. Why don't we could probably all reach a consensus on your position. Ms. Arts and I will probably never reach a consensus, with all due respect. I would probably never vote for one of her people. She would probably never vote for one of my people.
He has experience. He has a degree.
You haven't said all I've said tonight.
Okay, all right.
Tim doesn't take it personally. I've asked him not to take anything I say personally. Why can't you just sort of reevaluate? We have a sitting person here. We're throwing out a process we agreed to. We're going to come back and we're going to disagree again. We've got a person here who is doing some of the job I would like to have done. Probably not all of it, but I can probably somehow live with it, and I'll vote no whenever I can. But you could take this thing forward and not hire a second person in between you and your numbers person, and see if you can reconsider that. I could even sacrifice the out of town if we could just have you to reconsider that position. I would love in town, but we'll never reach a consensus. If we can't reach a consensus with two of my favorite picks in here tonight, we probably can't. But just think about that. We'll work it out somehow. I think we can, by our decisions, we can work it out. If you give us a thought process. You've been here now, what, 6 months?
Yes. Yes, I think it's about 6 months, going on 6 months.
The problem is, Mr. Moore, is that the stranglehold is the Charter County. Specifically, and I voted against the Charter County, and I'd vote against it again, but that's what's got us hung up, is it says you have to live in the county. And Tim, unless we made it where he can move down here, which we can't, and he's not willing to move. So
Can you work that out, Miss Attorney?
You would have to amend your charter that would require this board to put that forward and then a countywide vote. It's written into your charter, so.
I don't like the charter either.
So we can make a motion and get rid of the charter and move that process forward.
We need one more person.
My opinion, but that's okay. Go ahead. You got any more?
No,
I agree with you, Mr. Moore. I think you're on the right track, but you can't do it because the charter's got it hung up.
And I appreciate the vote of confidence. I will consider it, but I think I might end up in the same place.
His wife is going to tell him where he goes to work or live. I got a feeling, and that's okay. And I know what my wife tells me. I put on what color pants she tells me to put on. So anyway, Ms. Arts.
Well, I had talked with the county attorney about how long could Tim stay on as interim.
How long, Danny?
Well, I was hoping that maybe we wouldn't even need to think about starting the process again until the fall or some distant time. But she indicated, and maybe I should I'll let her talk.
I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. I just think you need to be making reasonable efforts to move the process along to comply with the charter. It does not say that they have to be living in the county on day one. Even once you hire an administrator, they're given a certain amount of time to move here.
We could probably solve this thing by buying you a real cheap house. And the fact you don't live in it all the time, you still call it your residence. People do that all the time around here. We move around.
Why can't he just live in a van down by the river?
Well, they do. But Tim, people move around. They don't live in the same house twice. We'll buy you a cheap house,
okay,
and you can live in it some, and all you have to do is meet the rules. It doesn't mean you have to
get an RV, Tim.
Change your carpet.
Actually, Heather, before we leave and end the night, I assume that since we're starting over, you'll be bringing back something to the next meeting, you and Tim, about the hiring process.
I already got it written on my to-do.
Do you have anything that you, I know we talked about, and I'm just curious to sort of get a head nod from the board what their thoughts are. You talked about some sort of volunteer headhunter organization. Could you reference that for us?
Yeah, I can look into there is a sort of group of former county administrators who do sort of voluntary headhunting. I can certainly look into that for you guys and bring you back information. I haven't explored that at all at this point.
But I think also for all of us to get our suggestions to Heather about what we might want to see done differently or in addition or whatever.
It's just a matter of philosophy.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
I was like, did you have items?
I did, but
I
I
did too.
forgot it.
I mean, I like you.
I apologize.
I like me too.
I'm just trained. Would you
What?
That's okay.
I'm
I'm going to talk to David before he